All right, Logan, let's talk Bucks Pacers because I picked the Pacers to win this series in 6. And my thought process was basically without Giannis, the Bucks are going to have a really hard time stopping this dynamic Pacers offense. There's specific matchup stuff that is really problematic. The speed and the pace of the Pacers against this slow old Bucks team, Brook Lopez and drop against Tyrese Haliburton. And then I thought Dame with the level he's been playing at with the lack of athletes, I don't love Milwaukee's formula to creating great offense, even against a very flawed Indiana defense. So I was like, if Giannis misses 2 games, I think Indiana steals them both. Clearly, I was wrong because the score may not look that bad at the end, but this was a 30-point game at the half. This and Mavs Clippers both. It was just like, all right, this game's over within the first 20 minutes. What did you think of Milwaukee's performance in this one?
I was really impressed. Damian Lillard was a big reason of why I expected Milwaukee to, survive Giannis's absence. Dame time's real. Dame's one of those guys that I just believe in. And I didn't know he was going to do this. I mean, this is a historic playoff performance. He goes for 35 points in the first half. It's the second most points in the first half of a playoff game in the play-by-play era. So that's since the 96-97 season. Carson, do you know who has the most? Can you pull that? Do you have that?
Most since 96-97 in the playoffs. Oh, man. So we're missing out on MJ's best performances. We're missing out on the double nickel and whatnot.
In a first half.
In a first half. All right. I'm going to let this one rip. Oh, I've got 2 thoughts. It's not Jamal Murray, is it?
It's not Jamal Murray. Who's your
Donovan Mitchell?
Oh, no. It's Kevin Durant versus the Clippers in 2019. I mean, just great company. But again, second most, dude. I mean, it's absurd. And then Dame doesn't score in the second half because they don't really need him. The game was put to bed by that point. That was a crazy stretch. Indiana shoots 6 of 18. Milwaukee shoots 15 of 23. They go on an 18-4 run there. And, Dame was super impressive. I also want to give a big shout out to Chris Middleton. I thought he did a great job. A beautiful game. Just beautiful game from Chris Middleton. But the thing that I was most impressed with from Milwaukee was their defense and just how hard they were playing, how much effort I was getting. The addition of Patrick Beverley, I thought Beverley did a great job of providing energy, of talking, playing hard. I didn't know what to think of having like a Dame and Pat Bev, guard tandem, but I think it can work considering that Pat brings a little bit of that shooting, can handle a little bit in that like secondary ball handling role, but you can run those lineups and be okay. And I was super impressed with Brook Lopez holding down the interior. That being said, too, I was disappointed with Indiana's offense, Carson. I thought Tyrese Haliburton should have exerted himself way more on this game. Again, with these superstars in these kind of environments, it's like it's not going right. The shots aren't falling. The guys aren't doing their things. Pascal Siakam is the only one playing a decent game right now. It should have been I needed a switch to get flipped there from Hallie where he goes, I need to put up shots. Haliburton attempts 7 attempts in this game. He only had 4 games this entire season where he attempted 7 shots or less. He has to impose himself more as a scorer. And if that's taking touches away from Miles Turner, I think he's going to shoot better. Don't get me wrong, but you got to do something else, man. They were letting Turner just let him fly. He goes 5 of 17 in this game, 3 of 9 from behind the arc. I think he'll shoot better, but I need Hallie to get downhill more. I need him to get to that floater. I just need more, man. Hallie's your number one guy, and if he's going to give you 9.7 boards and 8 assists with 7 shot attempts, that's just not enough. Again, Siakam balled out, man. Consistently getting downhill, creating a shot, hitting these post fades and stuff like that. So both sides, I was impressed with Milwaukee's defensive effort, but I was also really disappointed with Tyrese Haliburton and how much he exerted himself as a scorer in this game, man. They need him to drop 20 to 25 a night in this series. And he did not pull his weight enough in this game. And credit to Indiana getting this thing back close in the second half, but can't let that happen, man.
I wasn't all that impressed by the Bucks defense in this game. Indiana missed a lot of good shots. They missed so many open threes in this one. And I was disappointed with Hallie. he just has to be more assertive as a scorer. And it's not that he's making bad decisions. I thought he created a lot of good shots, but like you say, everybody around you was clanging. At some point, you just have to take it into your own hands and create a shot for yourself. But also, he's passing out of the pick and roll so quickly before he gets into the teeth of the defense. He looked intimidated by Brook Lopez in a way that he didn't in their regular season matchups. He looked like he didn't want to get to that floater, like he didn't want to hit the paint consistently and then create those more significant advantages where they're even better, more valuable kickouts to his teammates. Right, the pick and pop to Turner and Siakam, that was open all day with Brook sitting and drop, but ultimately they didn't make enough of those shots for it to be super effective. When they would run an action with a wing or a guard screening for him and the Bucks would hedge hard or they would trap, Hallie was making the right reads over the top there. He was creating open looks, and there's nothing you can say. Like, he just has to get the ball out to the right people there. He had a beautiful skip pass to Obi Toppin, who just clanged. Everybody was just clanging. Nobody could make a shot, but Hallie runs 24 pick and rolls in this game, and he shoots out of pick and roll 3 times. So that's just where I'm like, you can make these good decisions, but it was too passive. He didn't get into the teeth of the defense enough. He had to assert himself more as a scorer. And this Milwaukee defense to me really doesn't have the personnel to make him uncomfortable. Like, he should be able to torch Brook in drop with his pull-up shooting, with his touch from floater range, with his playmaking. He has done it repeatedly in this regular season. And I know that this hasn't been the same Hallie post All-Star break. He was down to like 17-9 on 57% true shooting, just like clearly wasn't the same after that hamstring injury. But I thought this was a really favorable matchup, and he just didn't assert himself as much as he could have and should have. On the flip side, he was thoroughly outplayed by Damian Lillard. And I think there have been many points at this season where the consensus would have been, yeah, Hallie is playing better than Dame. Hallie is the better player, maybe period, point blank. And he certainly had the better first half of the regular season before his injury. Dame was just out of his mind in this game. And although I don't think Milwaukee has anybody to make Hallie uncomfortable, if he's aggressive, Indiana on the flip side has nobody who can guard Dame at all. And he just had it all going, man. He was getting downhill on Turner and Jalen Smith with those super high pick and rolls, classic, give him that big runway. And he looked relatively quick. He looked quicker than he has, I thought, for a lot of this season. And he was getting to the rim. They tried different coverages towards the end of the first half. They tried hedging. They tried blitzing. It didn't matter. Like, he would basically just reset. He was never sped up. He was never pressured. And that's another problem. Like, regardless of coverage, the Pacers just don't have good defenders. They don't have people who make you uncomfortable. And Dame just exploited that. Like, his shot making was ridiculous. And that's the other thing. He was just making everything in the first half. In the second half, he was not getting entirely dissimilar shots, and they gave him a different look where they were having the big play at the level of the screen. That was more successful. They got him to take a couple mid-range looks, just better value there for the defense than if he's taking open pull-up threes. They forced a turnover. So his shot quality wasn't great. And that's kind of been the theme for Dame, like, this year. He hasn't been the same Dame that we're used to. I love Damian Lillard. I was sure that he was going to be their best offensive player this year. I thought he was going to be the man who could bring them a title because he's one of the best half-court offensive players in the league last year. And alongside Giannis, like, what else could you need? But he wasn't that guy this regular season. And I'm not sure this is the performance that convinces me that there won't still be volatility with Damian Lillard, because he had that stretch where he was getting downhill, but that was also against some slow-footed bigs. And he went crazy. He went crazy because he was making a bunch of pull-up jumpers, and he can do that. But I don't know that he's been doing it consistently enough for me to be like, all right, Dame's back off this one performance. It was obviously encouraging. It was awesome. But against this poor defense, it was what they needed 1,000% with Giannis out. And got to give props to Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton too for stepping up. This Indiana defense is just so bad. Like, it really is so bad. They have to produce offensively at a really high rate or they're not going to beat anybody. Dame was spectacular in this one. But like we're talking about with Harden, like, I do think we should hold off before throwing the resurgence party.
I think you said the key phrase about Indiana in this series is if they don't have an offensive explosion, they don't have a chance to win this series. They have to go off. They have to make this a track meet. They have to just outshoot and outrace Milwaukee. You know, it's a race to 130 points. You know what I mean? That should kind of be the mentality for this team. And they were giving it right back too. There'd be possessions where Indiana would score, and then guess what? Milwaukee was getting it right back on the other end because of bad transition defense or something. I do think Dame did a good job of turning the corner on guys when he could in this game and getting downhill. You know, his shot was hitting. Like, he hits that one absurd, like he gets the center switch. I think he gets Turner on him, and he just pulls that one from half court. I think you're right. I think there's volatility with Dame. I think a lot of it is dependent on the pull-up jump shooting, but I also just think this is a really favorable matchup where
for sure
Dame just might be able to get comfortable. And that's the thing with Indiana. I don't know if you're going to be able to stop Dame when he's like this on Dame time. Play physical and just make it hard on him. You know, try to drain him. You know, make him work. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. I don't really think they have the personnel to stop him, but at least you can do is make it hard on him and make him work a little bit. The two guys that you shout out, I want to give a big shout out to Middleton and Bobby Portis. Chris Middleton had me fired up, Carson. He's just got such a smooth, elegant game. You know, he was the best mid-range shooter in the league this season. Again, you know, we wondered in terms of efficiency, not volume. I believe he shot close to 55% on mid-range jump shots this year. He's just one of the best. And when he's in a flow, it's like every one of those pull-up J's, it's so pretty because nobody else takes them, man. And he is draining all of them. But also, I thought Middleton's playmaking was excellent in this game. Spotting some open guys on the roll, spotting open shooters. And I thought Bobby Portis played a great game and did his role. And that's why Milwaukee was able to hang. It was a bad offensive game from them. And without Giannis, I was like, are they going to be able to hang? Middleton and Lillard, pulled their weight. And if we can get this version of Lillard and Middleton throughout the playoffs, alongside a healthy Giannis, the Bucks have a potent recipe.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think this is the matchup that's going to be really hard to determine Milwaukee's future playoff outlook against other teams who are just, in different tiers as competitors. I think Indiana's kind of a bad matchup to look ahead, for Milwaukee's future matchups.
If you got this version of Dame consistently, there would be no question that the Bucks are the second best team out east, because then you still have most of the vision from the preseason. But we have seen the Dame explosions, right? He has had games where you are just like, oh my goodness, he is nuclear. And then he's had a lot of letdowns, and he's had a lot more clunkers this year than we're accustomed to from him. But this is a favorable matchup. This was a very important performance from him. Portis and Middleton, again, they're just shooting over these dudes. Like, that was kind of my concern. There's not a lot of easy offense for Milwaukee without Giannis on the floor. It requires a good deal of difficult shot making, but they have difficult shot makers who stepped up in this one. I remember they used to show these charts where it was like the highest percentage of contested jump shots that you attempt. And Middleton would take like 88% of his jumpers contested, and he was still this super efficient offensive player. And that level of shot making doesn't go away with age. He still delivered in that way. I do want to give props to the one pacer who did step up, that being Pascal Siakam, because he was fantastic offensively in this game. And definitely his numbers were inflated when the game really was pretty much over. But I really like his formula to succeeding in this series. He put on a mid-range clinic, and without Giannis on the floor, he's just working with a constant mismatch in one way or another. He can basically shoot over everybody but Brook. But then when Brook is on him, he's too quick and he's able to get a step, can drive on him, or he can create an advantage and then get to a little step back. He can hit the mid-range pick and pops without very much resistance. And he left some points on the table. Like, he missed 5 free throws in this game. He could have easily had 40. He pushed in transition, did his thing there, attacked the offensive glass. And maybe most importantly, like, just kept coming. He was super aggressive when nobody else was making shots, when Hallie was, again, making the right decisions, but doing so in a way that was too passive, in my opinion. Spicy P stepped up, and I think he is in for a very good series offensively. But the Pacers need a lot of things to change if they do want to pull off this upset, because when Giannis isn't on the floor, man, every game matters a great deal. And now the Bucks buy more time for him to come back, for him to get even healthier, and you've just missed out on an opportunity to steal one. Hallie has to be considerably more aggressive and more confident in his ability to at least penetrate the defense to some extent, right? He doesn't have to get all the way to the rim and challenge Brook. He just has to get into the paint where then he can create for others or get to his floater. Miles Turner has to shoot and finish just significantly better. He got a lot of good looks in this game, but as you mentioned, he was just missing them, and Hallie's creating a lot of good shots for him, but he was 5 of 17. Obi Toppin needs to not play. He didn't even play that much. This is kind of personal. It's just Obi's not very good when we're talking about NBA players, and the shooting is so brutal. He goes 0 for 4 in this one. It just frustrates me. It frustrates me. They have diminished his role, but just I hated seeing Obi take open threes and clang them in this game.
You remember that playoff game last year for New York where he shot like 2 of 13 or something?
I think he made more than that, but he took over 10 threes and he didn't make a great percentage of them. Yeah, that's kind of the Obi experience. Their spot up shooting as a whole has to be better though. And I agree. They do have to just bring more energy and they have to bring more effort. They don't have good personnel defensively. We know that. They're always going to let up a lot of points, but they got to give you back more than they give up with their offense, which they are capable of doing. And they have to defend at least a little bit better than they did in this one. I'm not expecting much, but I would like to see a little bit more than we got in this one. Ultimately, they're not going to make that Bucks offense uncomfortable, though. It's going to be about them generating great shot quality. I still think they're capable of it. I think they can absolutely take game 2 without Giannis out there, but Hallie needs to be a lot better. That's the biggest thing. Hallie needs to be way better for the Pacers to have a shot to win this series.